We're live. Awesome. Very, very cool. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you're alive just as I am live. It's kind of important. It's hard to play guitar when you're dead. Who would have thought? Sorry, I guess I should be dead serious. This is a serious topic after all. So, we're gonna start in just a few seconds, but before that, could you give me a little shout hello if everything seems to be working properly? Can you guys see and hear me? The guitar? You can hear that? You can see me? All is good? I think we're gonna roll. So I'll start with a question this time. Whenever I want to play both fast and melodic, what do you think is my go-to technique for that? When I want to play both fast and melodic? Have a guess. You guessed it. I play melodic arpeggios. That's the number one thing that's gonna sound impressively fast while also sounding really, really cool. And that's what we're gonna speak about today. Melodic arpeggios, just for you. Now I do realize that some people have probably never played melodic arpeggios and maybe not even arpeggios at all. So therefore, we're gonna start with first things first, and we're gonna just go through what an arpeggio is. An arpeggio is a chord broken down into different notes, right? So instead of playing it like this, like that, we're gonna play. But there's nothing really fancy with that, is there? You've probably done it a million times, but is it that cool? I don't know. You tell me. That's not what we're gonna do today, but that's the principle. An arpeggio is a chord notes broken down, and you play them one after the other. However, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna apply it in the higher register. So we're gonna use it as a super cool soloing tool. The reason we might want to do this is because the chord notes are the strong notes, right? Whenever there is a chord note, you know it's going to sound good because you're playing the same note as a backing track. You're going to sound like you're in super harmony. So if there were a way we could play only chord notes and we could play them really fast, how would that sound? Well, that would sound awesome, but how would we do that? Well, we would play arpeggios. So that's why it's such a cool topic. However, what you discover if you've been playing arpeggios for a while is that it can sound a little bit too perfect as well. So in other words, if you're only playing the perfect notes all the time, we start longing for a bit of tension, something that isn't so perfect. It's a bit like modern music. It's over-compressed and over-auto-tuned. After a while, we start longing for back in the days when we could actually hear mistakes on albums. It's a bit the same thing when soloing. If we only play the perfect notes, in other words, just play arpeggios all over the place, after a while, it can start to get boring. So that is why I like to mix in some tension notes, and I create melodies within my arpeggios. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. Now first, I want you to identify the link in the description that says study material. This is going to be super important because it links to the tabs I'm going to show you, for the licks I'm going to show you, and it also links to Guitar Pro tabs, and there's a backing track we're going to perhaps give a shot at the end of the session, see how that works out. And also a related live stream I did back in the days, or back a few weeks rather, where I basically showed you some kind of basic 3 and 2 note per string arpeggios, but this is a bit more advanced. Okay, so first, how do we play an arpeggio? That is not your typical, right? Well, oftentimes we find ourselves using sweep picking, and that's what we're going to do today as well. So if you look at my right hand here, you can see something is happening, right? I'm just doing this. I'm not doing... Can you see the difference? Going up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm not doing that. I'm doing... I'm doing a consecutive sweep motion down and a consecutive sweep motion up. So that is the number one thing. If you've never done this, you're in luck, because that's the very first thing we're going to practice here, the A minor arpeggio basic form. That's the first little transcription you're going to find in the study materials. And this is played using 16th notes, which means we should count to 4, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the way to practice it. As usual, we want to be as relaxed as possible. We want to make sure when we're practicing this with distortion that we don't get a lot of notes ringing at the same time, right? We don't really want this. We're back to the chord thing, that's not what we're looking for. So in order to avoid that, you're gonna have to start out slowly and make sure that after each pick strike, you actually let go of pressure in your left hand finger. So like this. You could hear the note died away there, right? That's how we need to do it when playing as well, and that is why this requires a bit of practicing, because we don't want to release it too early. We don't want to get this. Right? That can be cool sometimes, but it's not really the feeling we're looking for here. We're looking for more of a kind of fluid feel here. So we want to let go of that pressure as soon as we strike the next note, and this is key. So that is why, again, it's a good thing to practice this slow in the beginning. So at any time, you're just listening to one note. We don't want that. We want. That's what we want. So I was applying a bit too much pressure there when showing you the wrong way, and I had problems letting go of my hand pressure there, right? So that is why it's just an example to show you how important it is to control tension. Tension was a word I was looking for. I was applying tension to show you how not to play. So I was pressing really hard, and then I was supposed to show you how you would play, and I couldn't let go of tension. So that is why tension is such an important thing to be aware of and be in control of, right? Because if you're not in control of tension, you're gonna experience the exact same thing as me there. You're trying to let go of your fingers, but you can't because you're so strained, right? So we don't want that. One more time, and then we're gonna continue to the more advanced stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's our arpeggio exercise. This one happens to be in A minor, and that means when you memorize this, you can move this shape around and you're gonna create different minor arpeggios, right? So if we start here on the 12th fret, we get the A minor arpeggio. If we move it down to the 7th fret here, we get the E minor arpeggio. If we move it up to the 17th fret, we get the D minor arpeggio. And so on and so forth. So there you have the basic shape. It's a good idea to practice it with a metronome. Again, start slowly so that you can be completely relaxed, in control of tension, in control of notes ringing, right? We want to avoid all of this. And that's also why it's a good idea to practice both the clean sound and a distorted sound, because with a distorted sound, you're going to more clearly hear if you have an issue with noise, right? Because you get more noise with distortion. There we have it, the noise. Okay. So I think we're ready to proceed to the next example, and please remember that you can stop me at any time if I'm too fast. I think in the previous session I was a bit too fast, and some of you guys luckily pointed that out so I could slow down a little bit. That's important, you know. It was 20 years ago that I was a beginner, so sometimes you just tend to forget how difficult it can be when you're starting out with these shapes. Okay. So we have a second example, which is an A minor add 9 arpeggio. And this is a really cool example, I think. I'm gonna do it slowly first for you. We get this kind of thing. perhaps you can identify there's a note that's sticking out a little bit. That is the add 9. It is not part of the minor arpeggio. So perhaps you've heard this kind of chord before. It's this kind of sound. It's a beautiful sound, and we can get that in our high octane arpeggios as well. And it's a really cool tool to phrase. We don't necessarily need to play this evenly, which is how I've tabbed it out here. I've tabbed it out so that you can just practice it over and over as 16th notes. However, when we're playing, it's a different story, and you might actually want to play it in an uneven way and actually hang on those sweet notes that we're kind of identifying now. And this way you can really weave in real melodies in your arpeggio playing, and it's such a beautiful technique. Okay, so slowly now, starting on the 12th fret, let's see how we play this. We do 12th fret there, 10th fret there on the D string. So starting again, 12th fret on the A string, 10th fret on the D string, 9th fret on the G string, 10th fret on the B string, 8th fret on the high E string, and then 12, right? We've gone all the way up here. However, we should note here that in order to smoothly return again, on the E string, we're not going to be picking a whole bunch of notes. Instead, we're going to be doing one of these. Hammer on and a pull off, which is something we've covered in one of the recent live streams. So we get down, 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 hammer on, pull off, okay? Down, 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 hammer on, pull off, and then let's add that sweet add 9th note and pull off to the 10th fret. So we get pull off. And then we're going back up to the E string there, doing a hammer on, pull off, and then same thing again. I'm just going to go through it one more time to check that I actually played what I have in the tab there. I'm so used to coming up with variations here, so sometimes I sneak in a variation where it's not supposed to be. One more time. 12, 10, 9, 10, 8, hammer on, pull off, and then to the 10 there, 12. So that's the correct order. 10, hammer on, and then back to the 8th fret E string. Hammer on, pull off, and then we go down. Okay, I'm sure you're sick to death of hearing this now, so I think I'm just gonna show you a little example of how this can be played over backing track. We got Parisian here. Awesome, my man. What's up? How are you doing today? You came just in time for me as I was gonna show you how this sounds in action, which I think is kind of important, right? Because this is kind of the end result we're going for. One more time. So for example, if we try to weave this in with some rock or blues style playing. And then we can throw in that, you know. And it creates such nice tension while still not being, you know, I wouldn't say it's like exaggerated shredding where you're just hearing like a long fart of notes, right? It's not like that. It's more of a, like a more subtle shredding, I would say. Cool, Parisian, you're doing good. Awesome. Well, one more. Thank you, Parjan. I'm doing good as well. I have since like a month back, I have a kind of weird ear infection, which is not going away. And it's a bit frustrating because it means I only kind of hear on one ear. And since I'm using my ears a lot as I'm doing these, it's a bit frustrating. But I think it's getting better now, just fingers crossed. Other than that, no COVID. I had COVID like 1.5 weeks ago, but now I'm good, so I'm lucky to be alive, I guess. Let's see. Okay, so arpeggio slowly now, if you just want the basic form. I think experimenting with this is a lot of fun, and I think you're going to discover that this, although it's a technical challenge, it opens up a lot of doors because it's very far away from your typical rock pentatonic stuff. So I find whenever I'm tired of that typical rock and roll sound, I like to, look towards arpeggios, because in there are a lot of stuff to explore that sounds fresh and modern to my ears. And again, it's one of those few cases where you can really throw in a fast shred burst, and to my ears, you're not really overdoing it. If it's like, it's almost like a rake, where you would do this, right? You would rake and then you would target a note, so. Right? It's the same with an arpeggio, it's almost like a rake, where it's something that builds up quickly towards a target note. So again, very tasty thing to do and well worth your time practicing. Okay, Parjan, are you with us now? Let's practice. We have a third example, which is labeled A minor add flat 6 arpeggio. And this is also one of my favorite tension notes to add, just as the add 9 note is a really cool one, I think, in both minor and major context. Now let's add that minor 6. It sounds really beautiful and kind of sorrowful. Yes, Parjan, if you look at the description, you're going to find study material. There are the tabs for all the examples in this lesson. So you should be able to have a ball with that. So I'm looking right now at example number 3, which is called A minor add flat 6 arpeggio. So maybe you can follow with us here. It's this kind of thing. Or maybe that's nice. So like this. So this sounds beautiful, right? In a context where you could do some. Really nice stuff to just throw in whenever you're feeling angry. No, whenever you want to just, get some tension out there, and then quickly you're going to withdraw the tension because you can land on a beautiful note in the pentatonic scale, and it's all going to end up sounding like a melodic thing as opposed to just, that fast nonsense thing. Okay, so what are we doing here? This arpeggio has both that extra flat 6 note, and it also has like a really sweet descent there. Where half of the thing here is a da-da-da-da-da, right? Now, first of all, I should probably mention that I really like practicing arpeggios without sweeping as well. So although I introduced this as a sweeping technique, or as a thing that is suitable to do with sweep picking, I practice this quite a bit using just hammer rolls and some pull-ups. Now this has a big advantage because you can achieve those smooth, super smooth sounding kind of rake effect. If you listen to the end of this one. So the beginning was this. Kind of bright and biting, right? And then at the end, I didn't sweep, I just played my hammer-ons from nowhere. So, can you hear the difference? So on the way up, and then, so the difference there in tone is achieved thanks to practicing this with hammer-ons and pull-offs only. So that's also something you might want to do if you're interested in sounding exactly like me. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but I've done a lot of that, right? So. Something like that, right? And then when you add the sweeping, it adds an extra layer of awesomeness to it. So let's go through this third example slowly so you can see what I'm doing. 12, 10, 9, right? We're starting always the same way. We're starting these A minor arpeggios from the 12th fret A string. And we go up just like we've done a whole bunch of times. Xitrum, what's up, my man? So we get... That's how I've tabbed it out. So on the top string, we're gonna add a hammer-on, and then we hit that 12th fret as well with the pick. So both hammer-on and... And here comes the cool part. Now we're gonna move up to the 13th fret, which add this really fresh note. So it's like... Xitrum likes this. Awesome, man. Really glad you dig it. How are you doing, by the way? It's been 2 days since we last met, I think. So we get... That's the extra note, right? So, depending on how outside you want to sound, you can stay on that note for quite a while, right? Or you could just briefly touch it. So this is the one note that's going to add color and tension, and it's good to be aware of that. So when you're playing it and you're wondering why it sounds the way it does, it's probably because of that note. And then once we play this note, we're going to do this kind of legato pattern, which is kind of difficult because it involves quite a bit of a stretch here, right? Like that. So 12, hammer on to 13, pull off to 12, and then big pull off there from 12 to 8, right? And then we're just gonna go down the arpeggio like this. And that's where it's cool if you practice that hammer on from nowhere approach, where you're just hammering on each note. Then you get a very specific sound that I really like the sound of there. So, like that. Okay, so let's see again how this sounds in action. One more time. Right? Or the first example we did was just... So kind of nice there. I think it's has a lot of good vibes to it. And actually I can't get enough of this stuff. I think it's really cool. And part of the trick here, as I'm playing these fast arpeggios, is to alternate between a strong sounding melody. And that's when you can make use of your standard kind of rock and blues licks. They're gonna work so well with this kind of thing. Hey bro, greetings from the Philippines. Gerald, what's up my man? Welcome to the stream. Okay, so So again, we throw in that fast run and then we try to play something more melodic. So, right? So it's all how you combine them. And you know, I could try to give you an example where I exaggerate things. If I, you know, do too much of that's a bit too much, right? So it's a good idea to maybe just do one, right? Don't do 1 million of them. Gustavo, what's up? Hopefully you get the point there. Although these arpeggios, I think, are melodic by themselves, also how you choose to use them is going to determine how melodic you end up sounding, right? So you can't blame it all on the arpeggios if it doesn't work. You also have to, you know, throw in your best judgment as far as musicality goes as well. Cool. We got 2 questions there about how to sweep those arpeggios. Wow, clean sweep. I can't do that. Well, 2 people at the same time. This is destiny calling. We have to break down the sweeping technique. I'm so glad you asked. See, this is the great benefit if we get some interaction here. I'm definitely going to break down how I like to practice the sweep picking. And I'm going to do that by moving on to the 4th example here, which is exactly that. It's just an exercise for sweep picking up and down. So check the link in the description that says study material and check the 4th tab there where it says C major arpeggio basic form. Comdesk, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to practice sweep picking a C minor or C major arpeggio, and we're going to do it with 16th notes. This is important because it's going to determine how we sequence these notes to like the music or to like a metronome. And if you're starting out, you might want to work with a metronome or like a drum machine, right? So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. From the 15th fret index finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so these are the notes. However, the actual way to play this is going to be determined by our right hand at this point, because we're going to be applying that sweep motion, okay? So it's a consecutive downstroke. I'm first going to show it and then some tricks that will make it sound kind of cool. So we get this. If you look at my right hand, you can see how it's sweeping, right? But still, even though you're doing it right, it might not sound right. And one of the tricks to get good isolation between the notes, even though you're sweeping, because typically we get better tone if we don't sweep. We get better tone if we do this. But, you know, the Steve Morse way, but that's difficult to get up to tempo. So what we can do, and which is what I've done extensively, is to practice only with the left hand. This is super crucial for getting the right tone. If you can play with your left hand only, once you do have the sweeping, it's gonna sound really cool, right? So this is how I've been practicing, not necessarily with my hand here, but rather have my palm follow the sweep here, right? I'm just putting it there to really show you that this is a left hand doing all the work. Okay, and of course you're going to start off slowly. This takes time to build, so typically in the beginning you might want to do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that is the basics for building really cool tone. Because again, once you add the sweeping motion, it's like you add, it's like you play 2 notes every time in a way. So it's like you're double tracking in real time. That's why you get such cool tone if you can do this. Cool. We have a question about a seventh. That's actually an interval I have not been using in this lesson, simply because it's a more standard thing, but we can definitely look at that as well. Kurt, thank you so much for digging the example. Again, this is something that's kind of hard to spot, or not to say impossible. How would you know that someone has been practicing like that? But I got this from, I think it was an old REH video by Tony McAlpine. And he told, I don't know, he said something about being able to play arpeggios like that. And I was like, yeah, it looked kind of cool with one hand. And I think he did it in the context of being able to add tapping, right? He wanted to do something like this. Oops, probably not that. So, you know, it helps if you don't have to sweep. If you can do it with your left hand only, then it gets a lot easier. But, you know, I find it useful even if you're not doing the tapping thing. Again, it makes the arpeggios overall so much more musical, so you can use them in any context, and you're going to benefit from this kind of practicing. So, very cool technique there. I don't know if this somewhat makes it a bit clearer how I would go up practicing sweep picking. It takes time, but it's well worth it if you're doing it the way I showed you now. Also because it's going to allow you to improvise with these arpeggios. You might notice when I'm jamming around like this, I'm not really stuck into you know, like a specific place on the guitar or a specific shape. I'm actually able to improvise between different shapes, so we can try that out. So just because I said I was able to do it, I mess up. Damn it, one more time. I don't know if I like that example, but anyhow, the point I'm trying to make is you're less stuck with one single shape if you're able to play with the left hand, because then as you're playing, you don't need to devote all the brain power you got to syncing your hands. That requires a lot of effort just to have your fingers play the same thing at the same time. So if you can let go of that for a little while you think of what to do next, then it's super useful. That's going to benefit you as you're trying to improvise and be more spontaneous. So that is also a good reason why being able to play only with the left hand can be super useful. I'm just throwing out some reasons here because, again, I was saying it requires a bit more effort, but it's well worth it in the end. Hey, Matt! Awesome! Whoa, somebody wants me to play Ronnie Fon, but I don't know what that is, so I can't. Sorry, mate. I can see you really want it, but I can't do it. It makes me cry with it. Okay, so Gerald, I'm not familiar with math rock. I've never listened to it that I know of. So let's see here. Okay, since we had a question about playing like a seventh arpeggio, you didn't specify if you want it to be minor or major, but I'm just going to assume you mean major because it's so much more interesting. A minor 7 arpeggio is basically the pentatonic scale minus one note. So if you play the pentatonic scale and you remove the fourth, well, you have your minor 7 arpeggio. So you get... Not very interesting. However, the major 7 arpeggio is super tasty. I absolutely love it. So it's this kind of thing. the best way to play this or show you right now, well, why not have it like this? I'm just gonna say what I'm playing there, and you can be a judge yourself if you like it. Okay, so 8th fret there, and I hammer on to the 12th fret. So pick, hammer on, and then 10th fret with my little hybrid finger there, right? So pick, hammer on, hybrid, and then we're gonna do another hybrid here and hammer on. So we have pick, hammer on, hybrid, hybrid, hammer on. It already sounds really cool. You can, right? But we're gonna continue and play the 7th fret here. No, the 9th fret, and then hammer on to the 12th fret. So we get, and then finally we're gonna skip a string and play. No, actually this one is better. Sorry about that. So we have 8, 12, 10, 9, 10, 9, 8. Sorry about this. And then hammer onto the 12th fret. And then identical on the next string. So we get, that's your C major 7 arpeggio. Really nice. So hopefully you can rewind the tape and just go through it a bit slower. It's always like that when I haven't prepared it. I mess up a little bit more when explaining, but it's a super nice arpeggio, I can assure you. Okay, Final Fantasy arpeggios. No, I don't know what that is. Sounds familiar though. I know what the amp is though, Garav. This is like a Friedman profile. I'm using the Kemper, right? So this is a profile from a Friedman amp, which is like a, I guess, a modern Marshall amp, you could say. And it's by Bert Muhlendick. I can't pronounce his name, but yeah, I love his profiles. So Friedman sound basically is what you're hearing. I tweaked it a little bit. Cool. Julian likes my playing. Thanks so much, man. Okay. So I think we're covering a lot of cool ground here. Thanks so much for the questions. By the way, Matt, how are you doing? It's been a while. I hope you're doing good. And now we only have 2 examples left that are both using this C major arpeggio shape. It's really cool because now we're gonna throw in the Lydian mode inside an arpeggio. Now this might sound weird, but what we're doing, we're just targeting the one note that is the most typical to the Lydian scale or the Lydian mode, which is the sharp 4. So we're going to be playing arpeggio with, you know, the 1, 3, 5 notes, just the 3 notes that are contained within a major chord. And we're going to add one more note, which is that sharp 4 Lydian note. And we get this kind of sound. I love that sound. Listen again. So if you have, I think Steve Vai would like this, or actually he would play this rather. This is, you know, that thing I think is, it's hard to describe in words, but it has a very deep kind of sound, you know. Because that note sounds kind of bad in a way, but when we're playing it like this, we're sort of showing the listener, hey, we can play a whole bunch of chord notes here, you know, the arpeggio notes. We know what notes work here, and the reason we're showing you this note is because we really mean it, right? And that goes a long way. Part of the, you know, the challenge as a musician is to convince the listener we actually mean what we're doing here. And I can't really think of a better way than presenting like an outsider kind of colorful note in the context of an arpeggio, because it shows the listener that, again, we know what we're doing, we can play the strong notes, but we also want to play this note because it has this bittersweet sound, right? Yeah. The pedal steel was awesome in the collabs. So to everybody, if you haven't checked out the recent collabs at GMC, you should, because we got some fantastic results from the dual collab, is what we called it. Basically, we had two competing threads, and we got two different tracks based on the same material, and it sounded awesome. And Matt recorded some killer pedal steel licks in there, and the result is just beautiful. It's up right now on the front page. I actually did that before going live. So the student version, you can find it on the front page now at GMC. It sounds really, really, really good. It's lots of feeling into that tune. Yep, Friedman sounds awesome, and it works. The profiles. I've never played a real Friedman, but if it's anything near the profile, it's a it's a killer amp. Okay, so we have this Lydian sounding arpeggio, which I can't recommend you enough to try to nail. It's a bit easier, I would say, than the minor, because it has less of a stretch. So in a way, I guess we could have started with these arpeggios. However, I think for a lot of people, the minor shape is going to be more useful in terms of rock and metal and stuff like that. So I guess that's a good reason to start with that if you're into that kind of music. So Matt, maybe you have an idea of what we could do next in the next collab. We should brainstorm a little bit and figure out the cool concept for the next one. We did have the Latin jam in the previous, which was really nice, I think. So we could always alternate, because the one we just did was super song oriented, right? We were singing and we were doing our best, not to mess up the tune. But this time around, we could just give ourselves some space and jam, perhaps. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Really nice. Check it out. So I'm just going to proceed to the last example now, and we'll have covered a whole bunch of different cool sweeping licks. Now this last one not only makes use of two outside notes that are going to help us color this arpeggio, but it also has a kind of, I would say, like a rhythmic twist to it, which I really like. And we're pretty much going to do the same thing as we've done up to this point, right? It's the same kind of lick, like that. But instead of just going down, which works really well, we're gonna throw on this little rhythmic twist. I don't know why, it makes me laugh each time. Must be good, I guess. Okay. Really nice. Gaurav, I would like to hear you improv over a bit using this arpeggio. We're gonna do that. In 2 minutes, we'll be jamming. So with this example, the only real difference is that we're not going down immediately. We're adding the add 9 note again, as we did with our minor arpeggio. So we get both that Lydian sharp 4 and we get the add 9. If you check the tab closely, you're gonna see what notes kind of stick out there. And this allows us to play 2 notes per string here, giving us that little rhythmic twist. So, slowly. And you're gonna notice, if you look at my right hand closely, that I make use of hybrid picking here. It's super useful, I think, for these kind of little twerks. I find it more useful than, you know, going all over, on the top strings, once again with sweeping. I sweep my way up, and then if I want to do something up here, I tend to do that with hybrid picking instead. So we get... That's nice when you get that distinct sound, so... Again, it's all in the tabs. I really think you're gonna find it well worth to study these arpeggios. I mean, they're so cool. I can't really think of anything in terms of, oh, what's happening? In terms of metal that sounds so cool and so melodic. You know, it's a thing we've associated with shred guitar, but it's really can work in any context. It sounds beautiful. So yes, we're gonna try that now over a backing track. And I've given you a backing track there. However, since these arpeggios are not in the same key, we have to transpose a little bit. So that's why I've written in the study material, I've said advanced application. Jam with these licks over this backing. You're gonna find a link there. As always, you'll find that one of the backing tracks are free, so you can jam with this even if you don't have an active GMC membership. And I also say that the C major licks needs to be transposed down a whole step to B flat major. So if you think that I'm not playing the exact same spot here, that's because I'm not. I'm gonna be moving them down to, right? It's the exact same shape, but I'm moving it down. However, the A minor arpeggios, we can play them on the same place. Okay, so here is what we're gonna do. Let's see. Okay. Start from the beginning there. So this is the key of D minor. So it's a good idea to kind of establish the tonality here. Maybe by playing just a few kind of simple licks just to give the listener a feel for just let their ears, warm up their ears a little bit. And then when you think their ears are ready for some action, you could... That's the latest lick we did. And as you can tell, it's really musical, although it's kind of shreddy, right? And the success of these licks are, again, largely going to be determined of how you get out of them, right? First step is to learn to play the kind of tricky arpeggio, but then what you gotta do is to actually end them in a musical way, right? So you don't want to be just playing them and then comes nothing, right? It's just gonna sound like a fart in the best of cases. You really want something like... You know, if you're practicing these arpeggios, you probably are not completely new to soloing, so you might have like a few pentatonic licks or blues licks. This is a good time to use them. See if you can try to combine them with these sweeps. Could be anything, just like D minor, and then see, anything can work there. I'm just gonna turn this thing off so you actually can see what I'm doing. Cool, we got Eddie here, awesome. Von Dobby, I'm 57 and a half years from my play. Cool, good question there. Basically the question is, my fingers are not up to the task. What the hell am I gonna do? That's a good question, because I think that's something a lot of people are experiencing. Let me just pause this. Okay, so if this sounds familiar, you see all these, you know, fancy licks, you love how they sound, you'd like nothing more than throw in some of that into your playing. You give it a shot, and it doesn't work at all. It's like your fingers are not built for it. And yeah, nothing works basically. So we should probably break this down. First of all, it's good to once again emphasize that this is a tricky thing to do, right? These are advanced techniques. So the expectation is not that you're gonna nail this if you've never done it before. It's gonna take a lot of time. But the good news is it's a technical thing, so anybody can do it who wants to, right? Anybody who wants to invest the time can actually play this stuff. And I think it's important to make the distinction there, because some people think that, well, if you got the talent, you can do it, but otherwise you can't. And no, this is a purely technical thing, right? Unless you've actually broken your hand or something, you can learn to play this. Then how fast you can play it and how clean you can play it is going to be determined by the quality of your practicing. Can't stress this enough. How much effort do you put into every second of practicing? That's going to determine exactly your precision and your cleanliness. And also how much you're aware of other factors, such as controlling tension. That's the number one thing that is going to ruin your pace of progress if you've been playing for a long time. Okay, because if you've been playing for a long time, that means you're probably kind of comfortable with some of the things you do, like, I don't know, maybe some blues licks or some rhythm work, whatever. And you've attempted to throw in those fast runs once in a while, and it just doesn't work. So what's going to happen is, each time you try to play fast, since you're not ready for it, you'll be tensing up and you'll be trying to, squeeze speed out of a technique that doesn't really have the ability to play fast yet. So it basically consolidates a bad habit of straining up. So that is usually the number one thing that kills your progress if you are a more experienced guitarist, but you're not able to play fast. You are usually tensing up way too much. And just the fact that that you almost always mess up when you play fast, but you still try to do it, just that in itself is a reason for tension, right? So I'm just going through some of the most common things we tend to, or common problems we tend to encounter as we try to play fast for the first times, okay? Now, even if you do everything right, it's gonna take some time. So it's a good thing to actually make an assessment of, do you really wanna invest lots of time into this kind of stuff? And if the answer is yes, I love the sound of these solos, that's what I want to do, then you're probably like me and you're ready to invest every woken hour into this. And that's absolutely fine. Or actually, that's not even just fine. That's awesome if you want to do that. However, maybe you just want to spice your soloing up with one kind of fast run. Maybe you don't need to play these arpeggios, which is definitely like a high level thing. Then if so, what you could do is look at a technique that isn't quite as difficult as sweeping. For example, if you've never played fast, one of the easier ways to play fast is usually to do some tapping, which makes me think I should actually cover that in one of the coming sessions. Maybe just some tapping licks to help people who want to play fast but who haven't invested the time into their shops yet. This is usually like the easiest thing. So let me just, I'll play an example for you and you can determine whether you think this technique is worthy to be compared with, the fast sweeping stuff. And then we can go through it and I can show you an example of how you can play this. And hopefully within a couple of days, you can actually nail this at a decent tempo. Let's try it out first with a backing track. So it's this kind of thing, right? Maybe not quite as fancy as it, right? But it's still. It's still a really cool technique. So if this sounds like something you might want to check out, I'm just going to show it quickly to you so that even if you feel that you're far away from nailing these arpeggios, maybe you could practice this for a while and get much quicker results, basically. Yes, I'm also interested in knowing if Damian knows the band Ramen. It would be cool to know. Because we have a special connection with that. Or, the band Circe. If I'm pronouncing that right, I have no clue. Okay, so Let's have a look at a basic tapping sequence for everybody who wants to play fast now and not wait until tomorrow. I'm actually going to show you in the key of D minor now, because that's, you know, the backing track we're working with. So we're going to be tapping using our right hand finger here. It's actually the same thing as performing a hammer-on, but we're not using the left hand, we're using the right hand. So we're going to be tapping here on the 17th fret, okay? Like that. But before we tap, we've already pre-positioned one of our left-hand fingers here on the 13th fret. So that as we tap, we're ready to play the next note. So first tap, and then we're gonna kind of pluck the string. That's what we're doing. We're tapping, and then we're plucking it, just as you would pluck here, right? We're doing the same thing here. We're tapping, and then we're plucking it. And as we're plucking it, we get that 13th fret ringing, right? We tap the 17th fret, we pluck it, and we get the 13th fret. And then finally we're gonna do a pull-off. So we get like that. This is the basic technique. All I'm doing once I've nailed this is to move around the tapping notes, and sometimes the left hand as well. So now you have to tap or hit both at the same time as you cycle the lick, right? So, like that. 1, 2, 3. Tap, pluck, pull off. 1, 2, 3. 17, pluck, and then 13, pull off to 10. Okay. So let's try it in action one more time as you work on that. So if you are comfortable doing this, try moving up the tapping finger just a half or just one fret there. And then move to the next string. That's, you know, like the solo in the song 1 by Metallica. Something like that. It will sound the same over this backing track. So hopefully you can tell that there's a lot of potential in this technique, and there are ways you can sort of fire off a quick burst of notes even without, you know, practicing sweep picking. However, if you want that sweep picking sound, which is the topic of the day, there's no way around it. It's definitely worth practicing it. Okay, Von Doby, does that help in any way? I'm just first trying to give you a bit of context and then some really hands-on practical advice. I don't know if that's relevant to you, but these are things I've seen in a whole bunch of students. Typically, I'm used to seeing like a different category of students. We have, you know, one type that is kind of, how would I describe that? Kind of careful by nature and just trying to play everything perfect and just not rushing things, and I think that's a good trait, although with that trait also comes the fact that they might not, once you know time has come to jam, they might not be the type that takes up a lot of space. And sometimes, as I was saying earlier, you really want to play like you mean it, and you know, if you're that type, that's not an easy task. Then we have the opposite, basically students who are really forward and just, I can do this, and you know, and they might rush things a little bit and basically consolidate bad habits into their playing and stuff like that. But they also have a bit of a charisma when they're playing because they're used to taking space. And identifying these different types can be useful because you can use that to your advantage as you're trying to analyze where you're at in your playing. For example, I was rather I think the type who took a lot of space when starting out, so I did push speed too much. I had a lot of issues in playing cleanly and synchronizing, stuff like that. But on the other hand, I had high thoughts about my playing, so I did a lot of jamming, and that was very beneficial to me. And then later on, I've adapted my strategy, so I've been trying to become more of the careful type and try to clean up a little bit some mistakes in my playing, while still cherishing that the other type, the one it likes to jam and take some space, and who is confident about one's ability. So yeah, just a lot of talking there, but I definitely think these kind of personality types, most likely they apply to all of you to a certain extent. Hopefully it's helpful as you kind of try to determine your strategy going forward. Cool. So, please keep the questions coming. This is your time. What I'm going to do now is play a little bit more, and while I wait to see if you got any more, questions, thoughts, or suggestions. And I'll be weaving in some of the sweeping as well, because that's the topic of the day. But this was the first kind of practice pattern, right? Just that sounds good on its own. Doesn't even have to be fast. That's also a good point. You don't have to play them as fast. These are still super useful at a slower tempo. Do a little bit of the major shape now. Loud, perhaps. Let's see. So a lot of fun just jamming around, and to me these arpeggios can really give me a boost of inspiration as I'm, jamming, and also when I reach some kind of climax, it's a good thing to throw on. You're sort of following the climax and you're adding tension in terms of note density through these arpeggios. When will you go live on YouTube next? Well, I try to do it every other day now. What day is it today? So maybe Friday evening might be it. So the same time on Friday. I usually announce in like 24 hours in advance. You can see there's an event. If you keep track, you have to click all the follow icons and all that stuff, because otherwise YouTube is never going to show you this stuff. So you really have to go in and make sure you follow us, you subscribe to us and all that. And also go into if you go to the profile and you check the videos, there's live and there's like coming events, and you might find the coming event there, if YouTube is kind with you. When you go from slow playing and bending to the faster arpeggios, do your left hand relax and fret the notes lighter? Cool, cool. And did you consciously have to do that when you were practicing to get where you are today? Very cool questions there by Matt. So the first one is, do I consciously think about playing lighter when going between like the fast arpeggios and the more like phrasing musical stuff? And the answer is that I always try to get back to a relaxed state. And in fact, when I'm doing this kind of playing, there is no real need to be tensed up, right? Typically, I tense up when I either do like wide stretching or some types of bending. But for this kind of thing, I should be fairly relaxed to start with. Otherwise, I can't really play that. With the right hand, it's a bit different because when I go from like a fast passage and then play slower passage, I typically want more dynamics. So the right hand might be a bit more tensed up, but not a huge amount, because let's face it, we don't really need a lot of strength to pick, right? A little bit, but not too much. So the general answer is, as part of my practice routine, I think consciously about relaxing. And as soon as there's an opportunity to relax more, I'll do it. And the other side of the coin is kind of also true, is that I'm very conscious whenever I do apply pressure and strain. It should be for a good reason, such as the ones I mentioned, right? When I'm doing something that actually requires some kind of picking patterns, also might require you to tense up a little bit. But those are the exceptions. Other than that, you should never have to tense up, because it just messes everything up. So yes, I would say that being conscious about controlling tension is probably one of the most important decisions I've taken as I've reworked my technique. I wasn't at all as conscious about that when I started out 20 years ago. Which takes me to the next question. What age did you start playing? I started with the nylon string like when I was 10 or 11 years old. So I took like one lesson per week, and I did So needless to say, I wasn't very inspired. I wasn't very good. I was kind of crappy. So I wouldn't count those first years. But something happened there when I was 17, 18 years old. And I started, sort of understanding that, the solos I'd heard on, Metallica albums, Guns N' Roses, those solos were played by humans. You could learn to play like that, probably. I didn't. Well, I assumed that you would be able to learn that if you wanted to. So I tried to learn that, and that's when I sat down and really started practicing. So I would say 17, 18 years old is when I started for real, and that's when I spent a lot of hours into practicing. VJ, greetings from India. What's up, my man? I find it difficult to follow and remember fast melody line solos. Hence, I cannot get the motivation to learn fast licks. Could you suggest me a mental tool, please? Oh, sorry, I'm just messing things up here. Come on now. Okay, that's a good question actually. I bet there are other people out there who've struggled memorizing stuff, right? Memorizing stuff can feel like a daunting task as you're starting out. There's just so much to learn. There are so many dots to remember on that fretboard. And you know, how can I remember it all? And how do other people remember lots of notes really fast? How the hell did I remember all that? You know, where to put my fingers, where the scale notes are, how the lick ends. So, that's a really good question, and it addresses a core problem, I think, when practicing. Because here's the thing, there are a lot of difficult things when practicing. For example, hearing the difference between two scales when you're new to them, or even worse, making music out of a scale. So someone gives you the Lydian scale and you're like, yeah, this is a really nice scale. Steve Vai uses it all the time. It must be really good, right? And you're there, first time playing the Lydian scale, it's like... Nah, it doesn't sound that good, right? So there are a lot of challenges when learning new scales, learning new material. And if you experience that memorizing is one of those issues, then in most likeliness, it means you might be learning things in the wrong order. So here's what I mean by that. Before I would actually go any further when learning a scale than what I just showed you, I wouldn't really attempt to play whatever. That's useless. It would just be a memory game, right? I would just play that in order to sort of memorize those dots that I saw on a scale diagram. There's nothing musical in playing that scale like that. You're making no musical connection to it, and chances are you're going to forget about it unless you have really good memory. So it becomes a memory problem. However, if you learn that scale using a different method, you might not struggle with memorization anymore. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend I wanted to learn like the D minor scale. I'm gonna use the same backing track here just for the sake of simplicity. One good way of learning the D minor scale would be to find a backing track that sticks to the key of D minor. So I have my scale box here. The whole scale box looks like this. But that's just too much of a chunk to learn all at once. So I'm going to focus on just playing one or two notes and see if I can make them sound good. Let's add a third note. Oh, bending works nice there. Now I wouldn't do anything more. I wouldn't go any further. The first day of practicing this scale, I wouldn't go any further, okay? So, I'm exploring 3 notes here. I don't think I'll have a problem memorizing them, especially not if I'm making some kind of musical connection with them. What I mean by that is, if I'm able to play something that I think sounds good, I will have connected with those notes. I will have absolutely no problems memorizing them, because that is rare in the beginning. You don't often find notes that you think sounds good, right? So here is the issue. You should spend your time finding a few notes that you think sounds good, instead of trying to spend your time memorizing where all the notes are, right? If you do that, not only are you going to learn to play really well, which is our goal, but also you will have zero problem memorizing the notes, because you will learn them in such a pace that they're going to be part of you, right? There's just no way I'm going to forget the notes in the pentatonic scale, because I have so much personal connection with them. I've had so much fun with them. I've played around with them so much. I've made so much improvised solos with them. I've written so many solos. I've created a whole bunch of songs with them, right? When you do that, you don't struggle with memorization anymore. Also, when you see someone play all over the fretboard, it is rarely a result of someone memorizing something. Most of the time, it is a result of, as I was saying, bonding with those notes. You don't really get to play anything that sounds good unless you've taken your time and done what I described here for each of those notes, right? So it's a process that takes time, and whenever you're struggling with memorization, it is a clear sign that you moved on too fast, okay? So that's sort of the essence here, where I want to get at. If you are struggling with memorization, then you should go back and look at the learning process. How have you learned that scale? Did you try to memorize it as a whole bunch of dots on the fretboard? If so, that's a bad method. Go back, do it again. Just play a few notes over a backing track. Try to make a personal connection. Jam with those few notes. Sleep well. Go back to your guitar. Then add one more note. Jam around with those 4 notes. Have fun. Go to bed, sleep. Practice the next day. Add a 5th note. That's how you connect with the scale. That's the right pace of learning. That's how it ends up sounding good, right? Because memorizing a whole bunch of notes that don't sound really good is not useful. However, being able to play 3 notes that you connect with and that further down the line might actually end up sounding really good, that's worth a lot to you. I should probably point out that it doesn't sound good for anybody in the beginning, right? That's how it is in the beginning. Everything you play sounds like crap. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it was for me. That's how it was for Joe Satriani. That's how it is for anybody, right? So you're gonna sound bad in the beginning, but that's okay as long as you stick with it, right? We can still make a personal connection with these notes. We can still have fun with them, even though if you hit the record button, it's gonna sound like crap. I just need to make that distinction, because otherwise there's a risk you might be sitting there on your own thinking, not even 3 notes sounds awesome. That's okay, that's how it is in the beginning. But if you have fun when playing them, you've made a connection. Again, if you're stressed about remembering the notes, you're probably not making that specific connection. So I don't know if this makes sense. It's a lot of words, I realize that, but this is it's well worth, I think, explaining this, because I think there's a lot of people struggling with this, and they just can't figure out how, pro guitarists remember all the scales. So, do let me know if it makes sense. Comdesk, where do you live? Cool question. I live in Stockholm, Sweden. Where does everybody else live? Is there anybody near me? Do we have someone from Sweden or Scandinavia here? Would be interesting to know. I bet we must have some European at least. Do we have a European? We know we have from Asia. I think that's India is the only country where we know people are from. So Sweden and India so far. Cool, VJ. Hopefully it makes sense. So even the fast playing comes from memorizing just a few notes and then just adding 1 note at a time, making sure that memorizing should never be a problem. It's a clear sign you're trying to digest too much of a big chunk, basically. Netherlands, that's awesome, Comdesk. I've actually been in the Netherlands once, at least once. I was fishing in the canals, in the Twente canals. I don't know if you know where that is, Twente. Luke from London, what's up, my man? Ireland, we're getting closer. No, we're not. London is my geography. Well, anyhow, it's kind of close. Cool, Nepal, other side of the planet. Oh, so you are from Twente. That's pretty cool. So I've probably been close to you then. How old are you? Were you alive when I was there? I don't know where Hengela is. I think I was there like probably 15 years ago or something. I loved it. It was awesome. I love the canal systems. Really cool. I think, I guess from a fishing perspective, it's more challenging than, you know, the type of lakes you have in England or France or something like that. 34. So you were alive, but you were younger, and you still are. Can't change that. Cool. Can you do some chromatic style sweeps? We can definitely try. We got Storm Linneberg in here. No, I'm not from Norway. I'm from Sweden. So obviously we have Benjamin here, Storm from Denmark, which is even closer. Or, yeah. Don't ask me about geography. It's kind of pretty close. England is also pretty damn close. Well, Kimnas, you're way too kind. Algeria, that's further away. Okay, let's see now if we can do some chromatic sweeping. That's a challenge. Chromatics are always tricky to do without sounding like you just mess up all the time. Again, D minor here. So there you have like a chromatic major arpeggio I was moving around. Did it sound good? I don't know. That's better, and it's not quite as chromatic. So we can try to add some chromatics, like inside, in between the notes of the arpeggio, like this. So that's nice, right? So instead of moving the arpeggio chromatically, what I did was I played the same major arpeggio shape I've been showing you the last hour here, and while at the top, I played, you know, downwards chromatically, and I sort of went back into the arpeggio. So that's sort of my exit point there and my safe way out. I started with an arpeggio and I ended with the same arpeggio. Once again. Wait. One more time. That's nice, right? Too much, I think. One more time. It's a bit borderline, but it's still kind of cool, I think, for the effect. So, I don't know if you are satisfied. Who was it? J.O., are you satisfied with those chromatics? Simon Chu, Canada. There's another country I'd love to go to. The last example is kind of like what I was looking for. Excellent. Oh, cool. So I can just show you that then. It's a good thing to show because it's based around the exact same major pattern I've shown you. So I was just, since I'm in the key of D minor now, I moved the pattern down, which I've mentioned there in the study material. So we're gonna play our major shape starting on the 13th fret, but it's the same shape. So we get, right? That's the shape. 13 on the A string, 12, 10, 11, 10, 13, right? So that can be a good starting point for our chromatic arpeggios then. So something like this. So I'm doing, and there I'm starting just like those kind of 4 notes chromatics, right? And I'm doing them with hammer-ons and pull-offs. So right? So it's just going down with pull-offs, and then I switch a position up and hammer-ons, and then you can go back. And here's a good opportunity to move back into the arpeggio. So that's what I was doing, slowly. So over the backing track. And it sounds kind of cool if you don't do too much, so. That's too much. And then of course, you know, you can study your chromatics and go to the next string if you prefer that. But I actually prefer the 1-string thing. I think it sounds cooler. Like. So I hope it's somewhat useful. Kim Nas, you're too kind. I'm just reading your stuff here if you're wondering why I'm silent. Randy Rhodes. I can't play too much, I'll get taken down. I just don't like these algorithms. There's always taking your videos down. But there's a little bit of Randy for you. Okay, so we had some questions there. Pinch harmonics tutorial, that's a cool one. I can definitely show you how to do that. And cool sound, what stuff do you use? So I'm only using the Kemper now, right? So this is a Friedman profile. You know, it's like Friedman, like a modern Marshall amp. And it's made by Bert Muhlenbeek. I can't pronounce his name, but he's really good at doing profiles. The guitar is just stock Solar guitar with Ola's Duncan Solar. I love these pickups. And it has this Evertune bridge, which is kind of cool. It keeps my guitar in tune. And the model is Solar A16E. So here's a question: How do you play pinch harmonics? Do you guys know what pinch harmonics are? Pinch harmonics are those high-pitched squeals, you know, that kind of thing. So typically, if you just play the 7th fret, you get this sound, right? You don't get that sound. So how do you get that sound? Well, I mean, first of all, you're gonna find that just applying vibrato makes a huge difference, right? So that sound is a bit closer to, right? At least if we compare this with. So part of the secret is actually vibrato there. We want to apply some vibrato, but we don't really get the same sound before we apply that vibrato on an actual artificial harmonic. So we basically want to shake that high-pitched note, and we first got to achieve the note. So in order to do that, we're going to hold our pick so that only a tiny weeny little bit sticks out from the... Maybe it's easier if I do this. So you just want to get a little bit of that edge sticking out from your thumb, like that. So that as you strike, you are also dampening the note. And that is key. You are producing that high-pitched squeal if you are also dampening the note. But that's only part of the equation, because even if you get that right, you might not get that high-pitched squeal. Other factors that come into play is where you are fretting. That is why I'm giving you sort of a little tip here to start with the 7th fret G string. It's a somewhat easier place to find the harmonic, but also where you are picking. So you gotta try to move your right hand a little bit to find that sweet spot for the artificial harmonic. Once everything is right and you cranked up the gain, it is easier with a lot of gain. And also, if you have a guitar with humbucker, that can make it easier. Always use the bridge pickup. There we have it. But it doesn't really sound cool unless we apply that shaking. And that is actually the most common mistake I've personally found. People are most of the time capable of getting that squeal, but once they have it, they don't do anything with it, right? It's, you know... This just sounds like a mistake, whereas that sounds cool, right? So once we have that squeal, we want to be sure to give it a good shake, otherwise it's to no good. So, Kim Nass is already my fan. You're too kind, man. Thank you so much, means the world. I have a fan. Awesome. So do let me know if this is any useful. So again, a lot of factors come into play there, but the most important part is once you've got it down, that actual squeal, then you have to be able to shake the note. Otherwise, it's to no good. I think that's the most important thing. I'm just going to take a little bit something for my throat because I find that my voice is a bit failing. Okay, so cool. Those are some really good questions there. We have one by VJ. Big fan of Opeth. Another fellow Swede there. Cool. The exotic scale patterns, Michael writes, kindly suggest an example of how to write such harmony melodies. The problem is, I've never really listened to Opeth. You should do it. I hear all these good things about them. I would suspect that what he does is... I think he does a lot of those like clean arpeggiated stuff, and he throws in like dissonances, I would guess. So like Phrygian dominant stuff and things like that. A bit like this kind of thing, but in a clean form, which I can't really do. Maybe something like I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Is it that kind of thing? If it is, then think in terms of Phrygian and write like arpeggiated chord stuff. But again, it's hard for me since I don't know the band. Sorry. So we still have a little bit of time if you got any more suggestions, questions, or requests. While you think about that, I'm just gonna jam a little bit more over the backing track I've given you. So again, if you're new, check out the study material link in the description. You're going to find all the tabs and as well as a link to this backing track which I'm playing now.
VJ, so you are from back in the days, 2000. That's awesome, man. Really cool. So it's the first time we've spoken in a live stream then, I guess? I'm not sure I remember your name. That's really cool. So late 2000s, so it's probably, yeah, beginning of GMC then. Maybe a bit of Ultimate Guitar, I don't know. Parjan, go to sleep. It's a good time to sleep. Almost always is. I'm really happy it happened, finally. It's crazy how we've made all these acquaintances all over the planet and we have no idea about them. But it's not, doesn't happen for real until it's in a live stream, I guess, because this is really as close to a real life meeting, I guess, we're gonna come unless we, you know, travel the world, which isn't always easy, especially not these times. We got a second guy from Argentina. Do you know the band Ramen or Circe? Would be interesting to know. Cool question there. So Benjamin, or Storm Linnebjörg. So I've never really spoken about Frank Gambale, and the reason is that as much as I love his style of playing, I'm not a fan of playing sweep picking arpeggios with flattened fingers. the main reason is I think it's really hard to improvise with them. Although he obviously does it, but I think he throws them in a shred and then he improvises like before and after he's done it. Whereas I like to improvise in the middle of it, right? And that is precisely why I never like playing, this would be like right? You play the E major arpeggio like that. I guess that would be like the Gambale way of doing it. But I always learned a more complex version just to be able to improvise. Right? I'm doing this, which is not very handy. This is handier for speed, but this is easier to improvise around. So that has kind of influenced all my decisions in terms of what type of arpeggio technique I would go for. And one of the most important things for me has always been to try to, I want to play stuff that enables variations easily. I don't want to play stuff that becomes like a one-trick pony technique for fast playing. And I'm sure Frank Gambale might disagree with that. Perhaps he can use them, but I can't. To me, it's really difficult to improvise when you're flatting the finger, right? You're just happy if you can pull it off somewhat cleanly. That's going to be the main goal. Kim thinks my melodies are nice and my techniques are understandable. Thanks so much, man. Awesome. That's part of what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm trying to break down stuff that is often seen as super complicated, both in terms of, just explaining and describing what we're doing, but also there's a misconception that a lot of stuff on the guitar is so hard to start practicing. For example, like improvising and jamming, that's always been my thesis, that you can start with that from the beginning. You can start to improvise as a beginner. That's a good thing. I think the old school way of looking at it is that you can definitely not improvise until you played and learned like a million songs. And, I'm not a fan of that. Yeah, we're doing a bit of marketing of Gab here, which I think he's deserved it, so we should do that. Soda Stereo. Also, some bands like Rata Blanca have great guitars. Cool. There was one. What's it called? The Latin American Mana? Is that I think it's Mana. They had a lot of cool hits, I think, back in the days. I'm not sure if they're from Argentina, but Latin America, I think. Can you jam some example of these arpeggios with some tapping for hitting the high note and then transitioning back down? That's a cool challenge right there. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so arpeggios. Let's try it. This could be difficult. Something like that, right? I'm not very good at that. I pulled it up. I should stop now. It's not gonna happen again. Yeah, the tricky part, I think, well, it's kind of difficult in many ways, but controlling the noise is going to be difficult when your hand is up here. And I'm sort of, it always freaks me out a little bit when I can't have my hand here and be in control of stuff. So typically when I tap, I'll do it with left hand muting, right? So here the left hand is in charge of muting the strings that are not supposed to be ringing. But if the left hand is busy doing an arpeggio, well, and the right hand is busy doing tapping, there's no one who can keep my strings clean. You know, that's important. I don't know. Okay, so there you have it. I need to practice that a little bit. But the principle is, I guess, not that complicated. You can aim for any notes, right? This is a part of the creative process. You could either choose to kind of stick to chord notes if you wanted to. Obviously, it's an easy way to prolong the arpeggio. Right? Those are chord notes. But the theme of this lesson has been to kind of break away a little bit from the arpeggio to get some color. And you could definitely use your tapping for that. So you would maybe do... You know, play some outside notes. See if you can come up with a lick that uses tapping. I'm not super comfortable with that. Even with strict tapping, I struggle a little bit to come up with ideas. So probably something I should work on more myself as well. Kim, est-ce que tu parles français? Moi aussi, je parle français. I need to... No Arabic, though. I can't say anything. Marhaba. That's what I know. I know a couple of bad words also. I'm not gonna... Yeah, I'd love to come to Algeria and do a concert sometime. To be honest with you, it's been a very long time since I actually even played live outside of my room here, but that'll happen. It would be a start to just meet out and jam here in Stockholm. I wouldn't mind. It would be fun. Cool, so J.O., do let me know if this was to any use. Thank you for the lesson, cool. Again, this is something I have to work on, but at least I was able to point out some of the difficulties there. And it's definitely muting related. Of course, you know, if you have the time, I guess that's probably what I should work on, but if you have the time, just change your grip here. If you look at my left hand, you're going to see that I go from playing an arpeggio to actually moving my thumb up here and start muting stuff. So, or you don't have to have the thumb there, but at least a slightly more relaxed grip that allows you to control muting. So I guess part of the secret here would be to practice that, going back and forth between that kind of grip so that you can start doing some muting with the left hand, so that you can be a bit more relaxed and not have to worry about trying to mute while you're tapping, because that's impossible, obviously. Okay. I definitely think you should check this backing track out. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. Maybe that's what I should do when my head is slowing down. I should let you check out Guido's playing just for because I've been playing over this backing track and not a lot now, and you can compare the stuff I'm doing here with the Guido's smooth repeating rock licks. Here they are. So let's just listen to Guido here. So Guido he wrote the backing track, right? Nice, I like that. Ooh, this is super tasty stuff. Ooh, nice. I'm trying to steal some ideas on the fly here, not easy. Ooh, that ending is so nice. We gotta see what he did there. Come on. Oh, there we have it. We have to play that. It's... Oh, that's so nice. That's an arpeggio, actually. No. Super nice. Ooh, I love it. Can't go wrong with that. That's something I'm gonna steal. Beautiful. So what is it? I guess you could see it as a B flat major arpeggio. Really cool. Okay, so that's a. I mean, I guess Guido and I have very different styles, but it's hard not to be inspired by his fresh phrasing there. So if you want to check that out, I'm just gonna... Oh, just a second here. Ah, damn it. Okay, so this is the ending there. So we're gonna be starting on the 14th fret there, hammering on the 15th fret. And then we're gonna do that, the Gambale thing where we're trying to play 3 notes there. So we get like that, 14, hammer on, 15, 15, 17. And then 13, so nice. And then back to the 15th fret with a bend. That's awesome. And then try to add a nice vibrato on top of that. So you see, that's the cool thing. Just with one single lick like that, you can be inspired to really jam away. Now I'm really inspired to jam some more. This is a bit of a, like a plug warning for GMC, but this is partly the reason why I've chosen to structure the archive this way. Because for me personally, it's so useful to be able to just go and grab one lick like I did there. I identified the ending and I wanted that lick. That's the one I wanted to learn. So now I'm gonna try to jam again over this backing track with the lick and see if it gives me new inspiration. Right? We start the same way there. one single lick can change everything. Or rather, one lick can change your inspiration. That's what I want to say. And the good thing about this one is, it's not quite as... I often find myself always going for difficult stuff, but I mean, this is an arpeggio, and it's beautiful, and it's not nearly as difficult as the things I have been showing you. It's a different thing. You can't really... You want to go high steam, this won't work, right? You can't really do that, but it's really cool for phrasing. Yeah. I'm gonna play that the whole evening, I'm pretty sure about it. Oh. Did I get it wrong? Oh, you're right. Oh yeah, you can do that if it's on the 5th chord. Yeah, that's true. Whoa. Yeah. So the thing is, if it's on the 5th chord, then it's, you know, I'm sure you know this, but you know, you get the harmonic minor, so that would work. But if you're not playing on that 5th chord, then you're in the standard minor, then it's a good idea to play it the way I showed it. So most of the time, the way I show it is gonna work better, whereas the way he does it there works best if you're on the 5th chord, which in D minor, if you're on A major, like A7. Cool. Cool, I mean, this is such a nice stream. We gotta end it sometime though, but it's hard. So yeah, give it one more shot. Maybe if we get one more question or something, we can keep going for a little bit more. Then I have to go put my kids to sleep. But this is just too much fun, especially when I'm learning stuff myself. Then I get really excited and I just can't stop. Should do this more often. I just gotta try that lick a little bit more. Such a cool lick. I like it. Van Halen. Okay, so we do a little bit of Van Halen. That's gonna be the last thing. Well, I don't know much of Van Halen, but I would try to do... Maybe something like that. Nice. Okay, we really gotta end this now, but this was such a nice stream. I hope you guys are gonna tune in again. I'll be hosting a stream tomorrow morning, actually. So if you're in, if you're awake then, it's gonna be like 9:30 is Europe CET, like European time. So it's just in in 14 hours. We could meet then. Jo, thanks so much for your great comments and questions. That's awesome. Kim Nas, thank you so much. Mr. Cloudburst, thank you so much. See you at GMC. Everyone, you've been a pleasure. It's been so nice to have this stream. And yeah, until next time, you know what you gotta do. Practice, practice, practice. There's only one way to do it. Have a good one. Cheers.